How are you?
Oh, great. I'm great. How are you?
Yeah, good, good. Yeah, everything's taken off as
Oh,
always.
wow. What's
I
going
don't
on?
know what the light is like. It doesn't seem to be any better. It's always a bit darker here. Just bear with me. I don't know if that's going to make any difference.
Oh, yeah.
A little bit of a difference.
Yeah. When you can you
Yeah.
sit, if you sit forward,
Yeah, I just have to bring this forward a little bit. Uh,
right there is good.
yeah, it kind of works okay.
I do the same thing. I have actually a light that's a circle. So my son got this because it's like I don't have any outdoor light. Like you have a lot of nice outdoor light that comes in.
Yeah, but if the sun comes over too much, it's like it blares behind me. So then I have to shift everything around because I've
Oh.
got two screens. I've got one over here and one over here, and I usually look at that one. So then I have to move everything around. Yeah, but I
Oh,
think you can see me now. That's a bit better. So good.
yay. Good. Wow.
How are you?
I'm doing really great. I'm doing good. How about
Busy.
you? Yeah, busy, but all really good stuff. It's really good. How about you after the course? Everything?
Yeah, good, good. I'm just now, I'm building an app at the same time as trying to, I've got builders in and electricians in trying to sort out my shipping container for the growing of mushrooms. But I've got to do all this research for the equipment to figure out how much electricity I need to get there. So I'm kind of knee deep in stuff I really don't like doing, which is maths. I really hate maths.
Oh.
So I'm having to work out all these things, and it blows my brain a bit. I'm much more science. I'm not and creative. I'm not a maths abstract kind of person like that. It just doesn't do me any. It doesn't tickle my fancy.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, so that's where I'm at with that. So it's heating up a bit with the mushrooms. So I'm having to switch gears from moringa over to mushrooms at the moment,
Oh,
and
I see. Hmm.
yeah, I
No.
think moringa is a lot easier to grow.
Yeah,
Less
I mean,
technical.
the growing part is the easy part with moringa. The harvest and process, that's where it switches, and it's going to be that challenge. But yeah, I just wanted to, have a conversation about the course and get some input from you. I know you've been right there along with us all along, and really appreciated your input. And so I decided ask a few questions and then also see what kinds of way we can continue to work together and what your goals are. I know that you have that the website that's going to be really, I think that's going to be just a fabulous contribution to all of this. And there's a couple of things too that I wanted to let you know about. One is I had spoken about this camoringa.org, that website,
Yes,
and
that's
the
right.
work that Dr. Waterman is doing. And there's an organization or a group. I don't know that they have an online presence. It's called the International Federation of Moringa Producers.
Okay. That's the one you were mentioning, yeah.
Yeah, and we are going to have our first online something. I don't know if they're calling it a conference or event or a training. They scheduled it for July 24th, so I'll send out more details as we move closer. But they are really tied into a lot of things happening internationally. There was an event that was for sickle cell anemia, somebody
Yeah.
in Northern California who had this. So there's just a lot of things going on, and they've kind of tapped me into that. And one of the people may be coming through the course, who's one of the organizers, and so it's a really interesting just flowing of things. So they're wanting to do a lot of the things that I have on my everything Moringa list. Like, oh my gosh, it'd be great if somebody else took that on. So that's really great too.
Excellent.
So yeah, so I would just want to keep you abreast of the things that are going on with that, because I think that there's a lot of interplay with it. And I mentioned, they said that there's an app that is maybe produced already, a map because
Okay.
we talked about that, and they're tracking down to see the status because somebody was going to do a map and some interactive thing for this federation. And so there would be a lot of information, a variety of information to be able to go onto that map. So
Excellent.
yeah, following that. I just think sometimes on a map, it might be get cumbersome too. If there's like everything that you can imagine and recipes and growers and people of interest who are interested, that I don't know. So we'll just see. But I know that that's something that's already in the works. So could be useful to tap
Yeah,
into.
excellent. Yeah. Just keep me
Yeah.
updated on that. Yeah, I'd be keen to see what that's about
Yeah.
and what it looks like.
Yeah, good. Yeah, I will.
Excellent.
On YouTube is now our less than 3-minute promo that had asked for
I saw it.
Did you see it already? Oh, did you see the
Yeah,
link?
because it comes up, because I'm subscribed to your channel, it comes up with a, I can see when there's a new video. And so I kind of started looking at it. I was like, oh, that's for the course. And it was like, oh, that's me.
So with
That was
your
fun.
picture, because we only had, they took a picture from your Facebook, but then they've redone it with the one of the pictures you sent me. And the
That's cool.
country.
Yeah.
So I did a few changes when I saw that. So and that all went up again today.
Oh, cool. Okay. I'll check that one out.
Yeah. So
And I think the audio might have been, I know sometimes, because you probably took the audio separately from the video, because I know it was from the recording, like our Zoom recordings. Yeah. I think there was one point where, I know this has happened to me before, because when you strip the audio out of a video, sometimes it can get, the timing gets a bit weird. And I think it was sped up a little bit at the beginning, and it seemed a bit, yeah, it was just me being technical again. Sorry.
it's okay. No, because I have something to work
It
on
might be
that.
different on the new one though. So
Yeah, check the new one out and let me know, because we have somebody who works on those, and I continually give him input and changes on things, and even if it's something that he already produced, and I look at it again and like, oh, like just putting, I knew that we needed your picture, but also putting the country name there, right? And so small things like that. So he'll redo things. So if there's some kind of challenge, then I can send it back to him and say, there's some problem here. He fixes it right away.
no worries. Yeah, I'll definitely have a look at the new one after this.
Yeah. Okay, good. Yeah, so that was great just to have, the permission to do that. And I've sent that out to quite a few people, some of our, all of our students. I mean, I haven't sent it to all of them yet. I eventually will. The ones who have completed the work, because I didn't want to confuse them. English is a second language for most of them. I
Yeah.
think of everybody else who hasn't completed it. And so once they have, or once they respond, then I'll send it, because I know that there are a lot of people who, like with Malula, she is talking about the course all the time, and then people want to know, well, how do I do the course and stuff? So I've sent out 2 links, one to that. I don't know if you've seen that. I sent it to you. One,
Yeah, I
yeah,
think it
one
might
is
be
just
in
for this little video, and the other is just a link to the page on our website.
oh yeah,
So,
there it is. Okay, cool.
so it's pretty
Yes.
easy for people to send that on to anyone, or if somebody's interested. So I just wanted to make it easy if it would come up, in your world.
Excellent. No,
Have it.
that's great. Thanks for that.
Yeah. And yeah, so I wanted to get some more feedback. Thank you for your evaluation. That was really good information too.
Hope there was enough in there. It was when you're
Oh,
thinking about it at the time and just banging it out. So yeah, hopefully that was okay.
yeah, no, it's great. And all the information that we have, the more we have, the better. And, once the course, we were trying to think of the best way to present that so that we would get them back. I think on the next ones, people who completed their work need to send that to us before we send them the certification. I mean, like we have to hold something over people, because we really want to get that, that feedback. It's really important. We make a lot different times there's changes that we make based on that. And
Yeah.
then we only have the in-person course feedback. So it's very different. So it's really important. So I was really grateful.
Yeah, because that was like the course evaluation as a whole. Yeah.
Yeah, as
Yeah.
a whole. And then
Did you get many people? Did you get many people sending that in, or it's?
yeah, Nihal, you, and well, Malula said that she's sending it and she's trying to, correct spelling, and she's really attention to detail. So she's completed it, but she's going over it again. So as far as I haven't looked at the assignments. Mackenzie might have a better take on that, but
Okay.
I don't monitor all of that when they're coming in. It just gets sent to me once Mackenzie has seen something new. So yeah, I wanted to see like if you did go over like what you anticipated and then what actually happened in the course. What would you say are the top 3 things that would stand out as the most important for you?
As in why I came into the course, what attracted me to the
The
course,
actual
or
course.
in the course itself?
Yeah, in the course.
I think probably the 3 top things would have been the weekly calls. They were really good to be able to touch base, because there's one thing doing a course. I find sometimes with those online courses that you do, outside of obviously Moringa, I've done a few of them, and they'll give you a link to a Facebook group. And they'll say you can, outside of the course, you do all your videos, you do your course, but then outside of that, you just come over to the Facebook page. And that's good for some things, but it's not as good, as getting that one-on-one time. Well, that was the other thing, is the one-on-one time as well with you was really, really good. But to be able to do those weekly calls where you're actually in person, you can write down your list of questions. You also get to interact with the other students as well. So I think that was really, really good, having those weekly times. And then the one-on-ones as well. So you kind of went even further down and you were able to access the course creator, like face-to-face. I think that was pretty amazing. You don't tend to get that very often. And if you do, it's going to be some high-end coaching kind of thing, which you have to pay, a lot more money for. So I think as an all-inclusive course where you got all of those, so you got the course materials, you got the weekly calls, and you got the one-on-ones. I think that was just amazing to have all of those. Especially for the price point, and especially sort of like the fact that it wasn't too long and it wasn't too short either. So you had 4 weeks, 4 calls, and I didn't know this, but as many one-on-ones as you needed.
Yeah,
that was the only thing I'd say that wasn't, perhaps maybe next time, it depends on what you do the next round, but letting people know that, because I just thought there'd just be just one one-on-one. So
yeah. I'll make that more clear, because I think that we just kind of left it up to people, but we didn't know that people thought there was only one, so that, so I have a list of things that we are making changes on. That's one of them, to make that clear. Also the pre-course week, there'll actually be a pre-course week where a lot of things and set up and everything and start scheduling the one-on-ones will happen in that the week before the course actually starts.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Because we lost some time there with people, and also because we know that this is probably going to be a pretty representative of what it looks like with a lot of different countries and a lot of different time zones. And so setting up the time to call, I mean, like VJ was never on any call, because the time that it works for everyone else, it was midnight or 1 a.m. for him. So he wasn't on any calls. Arnon was an early call for him, and then everyone else kind of fell within that the rest of the time zone. So that's just something that we won't know until course starts, who's in based on the
who's
time
enrolled. Yeah.
But
I think out of the 3 things, just back to your question, definitely having that more face-to-face interaction, that was definitely a bonus. I think also the breadth of the course content as well was really amazing. You know, you got to cover some of the permaculture principles, you got to cover the soil biology, which I wasn't expecting any of those things actually in the course. So I definitely, that would be my second thing. And then I think the third thing would be, I think the pace was pretty good. I think I liked it. It was a bit challenging at times just to kind of keep up with what each of the weeks were, because, you know, permaculture and soil biology is pretty intense, but you managed to kind of do a good summary and enough for us to understand how that fits in with growing moringa. So I felt that was good for me. I can't speak for everybody else because I knew a little bit about both. So that kind of helped. But definitely, yeah. So I think they would be the three things: the access to you and face to face with the group as well. The length of time was really good. I like that 4 weeks. It wasn't too much, it wasn't too little. And the course content, definitely. The breadth of it was really good. It wasn't just about, you know, how we're going to spread the word. It's like, well, you got to know what you're spreading the word about. And there was enough of that in there, I think, to be able to get excited, but excite other people as well. So I think that's the crux of the matter, really. You have to get a bit excited yourself before you can excite other people about it. So yeah, so hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. And so, yeah, what you thought you were going to get out of it when you first signed up is very different than what you actually, yeah. And it's kind of hard to, because we wrote a lot down about what the course was. And so we cover the subjects, but until you get into it, you don't really know what that really means, you know, and it's hard to could give so much more information. It might be confusing or may just be overloaded. So, so yeah, we had to kind of just see what people were going to understand about it and then what the course was going to be running through. What I really wanted to have happen is that people experience the transmission. That's really the word that we've come to identify as one of the things that happens in the in-person class, because we're like, with my daughter Lindsay, how are we going to orchestrate that? Because a magical thing happens. The connection you have with the other students, the connection all around you, like with Moringa and all of us within our family, this thing that happens, right? There's something that happens, and it happens in this course, and we didn't know how it was going to. We just couldn't even imagine, because all we've been able to imagine is in person. But it happened, you know, we did accomplish that. So it was really an amazing thing. And there was a moment when I was trying to figure out how to orchestrate that. What could we do? I mean, one thing we added was the Moringa music, the introspection, that people had that option, but that wasn't going to be the way. That was just something that people could use if they wanted to. And at one point when I was really like, oh, how are we going to searching, I just got the message. There's nothing we have to do. The transmission has never come from us. The transmission has always come from Moringa. Yeah. And it will continue to do that. Whatever we do, but the transmission is going to happen. And so I just let it go completely. And we just did the things that we felt connected to, and just open that up for people to experience that. So that was a really fascinating part of the process for us.
Yeah, I should say that was definitely part of it for me. I know I mentioned the three things earlier, but I would say that's definitely one of them. But I think learning about Moringa actually helps you have that connection, because the more you know about it, the more you realize how much it has to give and how much it has to offer. So it's only when you kind of understand it enough that it's just amazing. I mean, they don't call it the miracle tree for no reason, that you realize just how much it actually has to offer humanity, and other species as well. We're talking sort of like, you know, pets and all sorts that we can give Moringa to for health benefits as well. But it's only when you get to that point where you kind of go, okay, this tree's pretty bloody amazing. And I'm finding that also with mushrooms, like this amazing, and funny that there's this amazing symbiotic relationship between mushrooms and moringa as well. So that's even more powerful for me, because I was just like, oh my God, how can I pick two things that are so perfectly suited? But it's that same feeling of, it's this medicinal quality, which is so powerful that you can tap into it. And between moringa and mushrooms, it's amazing how much those two actually are able to help heal and nourish and everything else. So that to me was what was mind-blowing, and I really enjoyed that understanding of just how powerful it actually it is, and how much it's going to be connected to me moving forward. So that was pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And so it transmitted.
Yes, transmitted, and you have the capacity to hold that. I mean, that's a lot. Two separate, very full, experiences. So that's also a dynamic about you, the capacity to be sensitive to that information, and to move with that information, and to step into it, and then fully step into it. It's like all of that is you too. So that's what brought that together, was you being able to, because there are most people, one or the other is a whole full life, right?
I know.
Yeah.
I'm realizing now.
Yeah, and a lot of the intermixing of that will drop down. It's not too completely separate and total, and that's why when you realize moringa utilizes the fungi, that connection is essential. And so that right there is going to be where you will just like drop your stress level and say, oh, okay, this is all working together, this is all fit, together. But yeah, that's something just to notice about you, that you can hold all of that, and you have that huge capacity, and it is your journey, and it will expand, and it will challenge you, and it will move you in the direction that you are intending to go, and it will put you in the world stage at a level that you are ready for. You're really setting yourself ready for that. So I think that is, a dynamic that is you. And so that will be really interesting and amazing to watch too, and to be a part of. Like, there's going to be times possibly along the way that either you'll be, oh, what about now, right?
Yeah.
Just so because we will be there to hold you, and make sure that anything that we can do, we are doing, and so you can rely on that. So yeah, I just with this work, and when we were creating this, and especially with my kids, that they have not really been in the trenches with me. Mackenzie in certain ways, Jensen distance. He's even now has his own distance, so that he's more like hovering and watching and doing certain things, and making sure like the audio visual, that whole part goes to him, and he's got a separate team, and then they do Moringa for Life things too. But Lindsay has been in there since we first started the course, and so no one has actually seen what it is that I do. Like, none of the kids, my children, have been through the course.
Oh, wow.
They've never, even my husband, he sat in on a day, and it's just kind of always been like, oh, it's just mom's thing. It's not, and there's a lot of stuff going on, and we had a whole thing, our home was opened up, and, we did a lot to prepare for that and to have people be in that space. But they didn't know really what was happening until, they would see the people like before and after, and they would hear the stories and stuff. And so they knew there's a magical thing happening, but they never actually stepped in. And so it's interesting to me now, because they are really seeing it, and they still hold their job as a certain part of it, not being in it,
Yeah.
And that's changing. Like Lindsay and Mackenzie, especially for Mackenzie, because she was in that last live, and that was just powerful for her. And she got the acknowledgement of, having, created all of that and made it all happen. And
integral part. Yeah.
yeah, and to that point, she felt like she had to just stay with, like making sure that she just was unemotional and not, so that she could get the actual work done. And I understood that. And now that it's done, she's like, oh, I guess I could be in those
Yeah, it's
updates.
evolving.
Yeah, it's always moving. And even Lindsay and Mackenzie have uh, um, talked about the two of them doing the one-on-one sessions,
Oh,
being trained
cool.
and doing it
Cool.
together. Because Lindsay is a
That's
very
fabulous.
quiet, it's very soft-spoken, and then Mackenzie is very gregarious and just like improv. She lives in an improv theater. So
Wait, is that what she does? Is that what she does as well outside? I know she did sustainability, but
she did she was homeschooled, so her whole experience. All of my kids had some part of homeschool. She and my younger son Mitchell were fully homeschooled. They had no public school.
wow.
And so she had improv classes that she went to, yoga and improv, all through up through high school.
Oh, that makes sense then. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
she has this very easy way and can speak in front of people. And at the graduation, she spoke in front of like thousands of people because it was a whole homeschool graduation for all of the San Diego County. So all homeschool programs were there.
Yeah.
And without any issue or, so she can hold an audience easily. And Lindsay,
And it makes sense now that you mention this, that's why your kids are the way they are, and that's why they're so involved with you, because you don't get that when you go to public school education. The homeschooled kids are so much more, I don't know if the word is wise. They're wiser than their years of what their counterparts are, but they're also much more developed as adults, much quicker. So they can jump into things a lot quicker than, I guess, you go through your normal run-of-the-mill schooling. I mean, it takes you well into your 20s and sort of like even early 30s before you actually go, oh, okay, I'm feeling like an adult now. It takes a lot longer to grow up, whereas and I can see how being homeschooled has helped with the journey with you and building the Moringa business as well, and just taking Moringa out into the world. It's I can see that now. I had no idea they were homeschooled, so that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and when you can homeschool your children, you can decide what's important to teach your children. And that was very awakening for me. And so Lindsay is very, very quiet. I used to call her my invisible child. She didn't speak at all for the first 3 years. And we were living in Germany. She was born in Germany, and when she started to speak after 3 years old, she spoke English and German sentences, just speaking. So she had been learning the languages, but she just never spoke. And so so now, it did take time to get her, like in high school, I made a point to go in and spend time and talk to her. So even now, she's very quiet coming into conversation. So she told me today, we talked about it. She said, yeah, if Mackenzie is with me, then she'll open the conversation, make people feel comfortable, and I will see where, she is very intuitive and very spiritual. I can see what they're going to need, and then I can say it. But the whole breaking the ice and carrying a conversation through, she has more of a challenge. So it was interesting that the two of them had worked that out on their own. So they're going to go through and listen to all of the one-on-one sessions and really be willing to be trained by me. There's the whole part about growing Moringa and all of that experience that they're little by little, like she returns all the emails to people who come to my website. And it always goes, I respond and then goes back to her so she can see the response that I gave. And then she sends it out.
Yeah.
So a little by little, without realizing it, she's been being trained, right?
Yeah.
For this. And Mackenzie in college grew Moringa there, and because she's in sustainable agriculture, and they had a high tunnel, and there's still Moringa at that college, and somebody's caring for it. And so she has experience with it, not like year after year after year, but enough that she can give growing information and growing advice, right? So yeah, it's interesting to see what they will all do with it as we move forward. And then as we get into the growers course too. So it's a fascinating process, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. And this is your first round as well. So, you know,
Yeah.
you've done the ambassadors, you got the growers, and you have the teaching as well. So you've still got all these pioneer moments still to go through, you know, with the next round and iterations of the courses. So
Yeah.
it's exciting. It's exciting. It's also that kind of moment where you kind of still trying to find your feet. So
It is. Mhm.
yeah,
It
it'll
is.
work itself out.
It feels good though to be this far, because I never knew how I was going to be able to do this, and I couldn't have done it without them. And there was no way that I could have, you know. So it really is a family effort, and everything that we do, like we have meetings, and then we do a check-in twice a week, and we check in how people are doing personally, you know, too. So it's there's a very amazing, very easy flow to working with as a family, and then you know, doing business and family, and it's amazing to me. I
Mm.
think this, you know, I would say life should be this way for people
Yeah,
who,
absolutely.
you know,
Absolutely. And the thing is when you're it's even better when everybody involved knows their strengths and their weaknesses, and everybody is just allowed to be whatever they want to be and who they are. And that's why it really flows very well, because if you have two people with the same sort of like personalities, it can be very easy to kind of grade on each other and who's going to be the lead and who's, you know, going to be the stepping back. And it does get a little bit complicated in terms of the dynamics. But when everybody, obviously, you know, you've brought up your children fantastically, so then they all are very comfortable being themselves, and there is no trying to be anybody else other than who they are. So they're able to be individuals, and they've figured it out. You know, like you said, Lindsay and Mackenzie, they know how they work well together. It's kind of naturally happening now, especially doing all the Moringa courses and moving forward. They'll even blend in even more. So there's none of that, because the dynamics is important. And families are the worst for bad, toxic dynamics. So you're very blessed. You're very blessed to have great kids who
no, I truly
know
feel
who they
that.
are.
And Jensen, it was interesting because he's a very type A, you know, so typical firstborn male type A person. I was like, wow, how did that happen? But he just came out that way. I just like, it was fascinating to me. He's a very early speaker. As a baby, at 8 months old, he was speaking. I have a video, and my kids never believed me. They're like, oh yeah, mom. Well, I found the cassette, the tape cassette.
Old school.
He was 9 months old, and I was recording him saying words. Now he wasn't talking, but he was saying words, and they could recognize those words. And we were pointing to something, and he was saying the words, and they were like, "Oh, he really was talking." Because Jensen has had 2 boys, Lindsay has had her baby. It's like they could be like saying full sentences at a year old. They couldn't imagine it,
Wow.
but now after hearing that,
Seeing
so it
that,
was
yeah.
interesting. And he's a very strong personality, and so he was very sensitive to both of the girls, and he actually made Mackenzie in charge of the meetings, and she ran all the meetings, and he would say, okay, well, what's that, you know. So he delegated, he empowered, he dropped that whole like, I have to be in control, I'm going to run everything, right? Because they were kind of like, how's that going to be? They wanted him to be a part of this. And when he started to come in, he came in just this soft way, sensitive to them.
Nice. Yeah.
And then when he was saying things like, yeah, I think in the introduction where my kids are talking, he says, I'm the man behind these 3 goddesses. So that I was like,
cute.
goddess,
Did he say that?
you know, because that would have been his vocabulary. It's like, and so he's just amazed us time and time again with his sensitivity and his intuition and his connection, and the way he supports is just like so gentle and so, yeah, it's so precise, and you know, so, and it's nothing contrived. He's not acting some way or trying to dampen himself at all. He's just like flowing with us.
And alpha energy is actually, we tend to often poo-poo alpha energy, but alpha energy is actually very powerful if it's harnessed in the right way. It's a real motivator, and it's got a lot of, it's high energy. So if you can capture, it's a bit like electricity, very much the same. So if you harness it and you earth it,
yes,
no one gets fried.
yeah, exactly. So I
So
think
that's
that
great.
because it was family, and he was really like, he is very, very connected and loyal, and so his interest was always to make sure that whatever he was doing was compatible with everyone and wasn't overriding anyone. And so he's really remade himself in that way, just his own intention. And so, yeah, we just are observing the different ways that we've moved through things. And my husband and I just spent a week there in Denver with them, and we planted little, container gardens and with moringa in there, and some different things. And so my grandsons are watering every day, and every Sunday we do a check-in, and they walk me through and show me what's happening. It's like, it's really precious. So, yeah. Good. Well, you had mentioned in one of the calls that we had, some other thing other than Facebook, and
Oh,
some
yes.
way that we could manage things. And so we said, okay, we'll get back to that. And so I wanted to know if this is a good time to talk about that.
Yeah, sure. And I could probably draft an email to you as well with links to these particular places, so you guys can explore them a little bit as well, just to kind of see what might fit. But yeah, there's things like Mighty Networks and Circle, and there's a few others. But there's a real kind of move now to sort of like decentralize these social media platforms a little bit, because there's if something were to happen to Facebook tomorrow, you can imagine so many communities are based around that now.
Yeah.
And it's the same with any platform, obviously, but especially the size that the likes of Facebook have gotten, it can be very challenging. It also, I guess, kind of keeps everything contained, and some of these platforms you can do courses through them as well. That's why I'm saying that's just a couple that I've mentioned, but I'll go and pull out some of my resources. I've got things listed in places that might be compatible with what you're planning on doing. And if that's okay, I'll forward them after with the links that you can have a look at them. But yeah, I mean, if that's something that you're interested in, it just really depends on what you're planning to do with it. If you want to have like a Facebook or a Facebook plus a Teachable, like there's different sort of like things that you could be using depending on your use case. So if you wanted to do your live calls through it as well instead of Zoom, perhaps, you might be able to do it through them. So it depends on how inclusive you want it to be. So yeah, I'll pull together a few things and send them to you, but it really will just depend on how far you really want to go with it, and how happy you are with what you're using at the moment. So maybe that might be something to consider, like what are you happiest with Facebook, for example? What are the features you really like with it? What are the things you least like with it, etc. So maybe you could have a think about that, and then we can keep sort of like discussing, well, which one might be the best option. Because I'm pretty good at sort of like sourcing out all these different things that you can use, but it will always depend on what's the use case. What are you actually looking to use it for? So that will be the main thing, really. And I guess, it depends on, are you guys going to be using Canva again, or are you thinking of moving that as well? Like, it really just depends, I guess, on, because that could be another feature that would work in with some of these other things.
Yeah, I had never thought that there's a combination that that these can go in together with other kinds of platforms and so forth. So we've used Canvas only because that's something that Mackenzie knew how to use already. And she had to learn a lot to do all of that she has done with it. And she's already put up the next course. So it's by the dates, so we can keep each of the courses separate too. And so she just transferred over everything onto that. But it's probably pretty much you know, we're open to long term what can be easiest as well.
Yeah.
So now it's just that she was already familiar with that one. That's why we used it. No one went through and researched any other things. We just said, oh, you know
Yeah.
that? Okay, we'll do that one. That's it.
Yeah. We want to do a course, and Mackenzie knew how to use that from uni days. So that was the easiest. Yeah. And that's how it goes really, isn't it? When you first start out, it's like use what you've got. And then as you grow and scale, then you figure out what you're going to do after that. But yeah, I'll send you a few links, and then you guys can have what you think is best.
Okay. That sounds good. And then I'm losing some connection. You're frozen.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, my internet's been very strange lately. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Hopefully it's okay.
Yeah. Now it's okay. Yeah. It was just going over sending the email to us. Then the other thing that you had mentioned had to do, I don't know if you mentioned it or I got an idea from something that you said, and that is what kinds of ways we could move our website. We talked about like moving our website from Shopify, which I would really like to do, to something else. And we've used WordPress in the past. And I looked up the one that had been recommended, a theme called Astra.
Oh, yes, Astra. Yep. Yeah, I've heard of that one.
And I've gone through and looked at, you know, all the different kinds of templates and stuff that they are ways that you can set that up, and it looks totally different. And also different things that we might be able to do to move our website closer to, I don't even know where we are with it because we've not put any attention on it.
Yeah.
And so I've been on the internet for a very long time, but I'm really far back and I don't really know what kinds of things
where everything is at.
In order, yeah, because it's just trying to get be in a visible enough place that people can find the course or even find the products. But for us right now, it's the course. And so anything like that we could utilize, any technique or something that could help us become more visible. And for the internet, it means moving up to being, I don't know what it takes to be on the first page. I have no idea how that happens. To me, it's
magic.
Thing. Yeah.
It's always magic.
That's pretty much what I think it is.
That's right, exactly. It's a good dose of magic, and that's it. No, I see what you mean. I guess you were mentioning that you weren't entirely happy, or you guys weren't entirely happy with Shopify. It just wasn't working the way you wanted it to work, and
they don't do our transactions, which is why we moved to them to begin with, and also nobody that we can ask why they made this decision. What was it based on?
Yeah, that's the thing. I think a lot of people, it just depends. I don't know how you've set it up again. I could only speak for this if I was to have a look sort of like in the back end and research it a little bit, because I haven't had a lot to do with Shopify, because I prefer to do WordPress and you host everything yourself. You've got a little bit more control over it. Obviously, there is the linking up into the payment systems, which again will just depend on what you guys are using. What were you using in the past, and what are you using with Shopify? What's the back end like?
We use Stripe.
Stripe, okay, yeah. Well, that should be fairly easy.
Yeah, that part is easy, the payment part. But the reason we went to Shopify was, I mean, I don't know all of the different things. It is expensive. Like we pay a lot for, I don't even know what we're getting for that. But
and that's monthly, isn't it? It's a monthly fee for Shopify as well. Yeah.
So there's just a cost involved, which I really can't justify, because I really don't know what it's doing and why. And then the reason of going there was because of doing the payment, the transactions, and they're not doing that. So I don't have any loyalty to it. I learned a lot of WordPress, and Lindsay knows a lot of it as well. She and Mackenzie both can get into Shopify and do things, but like there are a lot of pages on our previous website that are not on there.
Right.
On Shopify, because something I can't remember. They told me at one point, but of course it's a foreign language to me, so I don't know what that really meant. But of why,
Do,
you know,
yeah,
why
sorry,
on? Sorry.
No, that's okay. So do you still have access to the old WordPress site?
Well, I got a hold of the woman who did it for me, so she's checking because her computer that she did it on, she is like locked right now, so she can't go
Okay.
check. But so I am trying to track that down after you told that to me.
Yeah, because if she can somehow download it, like she could make a backup of the site, then it gets zipped up into a file, and then you can use that file. It will be whatever, it's almost like a time capsule of wherever you left it off and wherever she has it up to date with, that will be what it is. So whatever you've done moving forward will probably be lost and have to probably be copied over if there's anything extra, like on the Shopify site, which doesn't sound like there is. It sounds like you've been a lot more limited in terms of the pages that you've uploaded. But for example, if there's any blog posts or anything like that you've done, or anything like that with Shopify, that's worth transferring over, then yeah, I think it's going to just be a case of, because they're in two different systems, and it's probably had a time snapshot that's quite old with the WordPress site versus this one, then there'll be a bit of fiddling around just to kind of get everything over and all of the pages live again and updated. So it's kind of like a move it over and update process. So
to me right now, it would be okay to just move everything from Shopify, and then I would create everything new because so much has changed anyway. So I would say what we had on WordPress is not, we've lived without it for quite a long time now. And so, and
it
so
doesn't matter so much.
I would like to be in a present time and move forward from here rather than try to retrieve. And, but so that's how I would,
Okay, so it'd just be a straight transfer over then. Okay, cool. All right. Yeah, I mean, look, if you wanted me to have a look into that, I could look into it for you and see if, if you wanted me to be involved in helping you out with it.
Oh, that would
unless you've got someone else. Yeah, I just wasn't sure to what degree, whether it was just a quick conversation to give you some ideas or whether you actually wanted me to actually help you do it.
If you can help us do it, because I mean, I have a closer connection to you because we're linked at the hip now. So
yeah, that's right. Twins.
So to just find somebody and say who does this, I have less interest in doing that. There's been a couple of different people who have tried to help, and then I don't know, there's just, you might have a vested interest in us, being more out there. I don't know, but yeah, I think that would be really great if you could do that.
Well, that would be the first start. Once we get it back onto WordPress, so you can have full control over it again, and then the next step would be doing things like SEO, which is that search engine optimization, and potentially looking at writing some blog posts. Finding the keywords that could help you rank on Google on the first page, because there will probably be a lot of people trying to sell Moringa, so they'll probably be trying to monetize on that level. So it really just depends on, there's probably nobody doing Moringa courses, like nobody's probably doing Moringa courses, so that'd be a keyword you could potentially write some blog posts on, the ambassador course, the growers course, that kind of stuff. And then you could be, so when someone types in Moringa courses, then they're going to at least be able to find you guys on the first page, hopefully right up the top. So that's probably that next iteration once you get it back onto WordPress, because WordPress is much easier, I think, to do search engine optimization than it probably is to do with Shopify. You can still do it, but you just have so much more control with WordPress than you do. Yeah, because you're self-hosting basically, put it on your, your domain name is on basically not on the Shopify servers, but on a server of your choice. So you can do a lot more. So
that would be great. And so right, just as Friday, Jensen and Mackenzie decided to find some kind of voice to text to turn some of the audio that I've done into blog posts.
Excellent.
So that's already something in the works that they've decided to work on, and they're working on that this week and stuff. So there's a lot of audio that I have and a lot of video that I've done. And so they're just taking that, everything that I've done, they're making it into all these different things, right? The
Excellent.
videos,
Different content.
the
Yeah.
podcasts, and I've done many podcasts, but there's going to be more. And, I in Denver, I visited Roberta.
Yes, I know you mentioned.
And it's just an incredible story. And so we videotaped, and we're going to put the whole thing. She has all her journals, I think 21 journals that she sent me over the years when she was there. And so I have the progress of what she did. And then in October, when I'm back there, I'll see her again, and the person who's taking over for her. Right. And then we gave her that, Moringa Lifetime Achievement Award and stuff. It was just beautiful time. So those are all stories to tell. Those are, we have others, Damas, who we've heard a lot about. We have all these different things that she's done, and her whole story that is going to be, it's going to be put together as a video as well. And each of the students, as we have things to, to show over time, we want to do these, these stories about
absolutely
their projects and the status of people's projects right now. There may be somebody in the next course from Mali, from one of my students who has a project there. And Roberta will have some, the woman who's taking over for her will go through the ambassador. Of course, she'll understand, the same basic information that Roberta has. So those are the things also I want to have be available in some way, maybe on the YouTube channel, where we're telling the stories of our students and the projects that they're doing, and the update even from your group. So Nihal, who did that flyer, I want to send that flyer out to everyone, because there's a really nice
that was for the family planning, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, that was their 6 clinics, and now they are going to produce 500,000 of those pieces to distribute.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
holy guacamole.
Yeah. That's the thing though, like that's what happens when and I talked to Malula, because her project is exploding. Now the organization where it has the land, and they've met and they've done all these different meetings, and they're going to go there. They have a place they're going to do the drying and everything there, because now she knows why. Because I did that on our first one-on-one, but she was like, oh yeah, really far. And now she
gets it. It's all clicked. Yeah.
Yeah. So hers, so that's what I also want to keep people connected to the students in your own course, so that you can see, oh, this is where they, just in this short period of time, Nihal is just like, oh, this, what?
Yeah.
100,000, that's amazing. So I do want to send his final one, because it's a very beautiful flyer that he put together. It's all in English. And he solved one of the problems that I'd had with that one picture that shows Moringa equals this 7 times of vitamin C. And it said that without an explanation, that looks like one little branch is equal to all that. And so I said, in the course, we have the picture of 100 grams of fresh. So he just switched that side out, and now it has that.
The 100 grams. Excellent.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So it's in that flyer, and he wrote that out, 100 grams of edible portion, so it's clear. So yeah, that's something that I think would be easy. Everybody could have that, and so they're talking to somebody they want to know about Moringa, you would just send that.
Send that on, yeah. Well, funnily enough, I was at an event on Sunday night, and I was talking to a woman who was a nutritionalist in amongst the dancing and the food and all of that. Somehow we got talking about Moringa, because I said, oh, have you ever heard of, she's Brazilian, and I said, have you heard of Moringa? And she said, oh yes, I've heard of Moringa, because obviously parts of Brazil, it's obviously tropics, I believe, right? That up the top there, yeah. And she did say yes, that she does know Moringa, but she actually didn't know much about it. And I just said, well, I'll send you some information about it. You've got to kind of start eating it and start talking to your clients about it, basically. Yeah. So that was really good. And I just felt like, well, it's one person, but that one person is going to influence so many. And I think it's a really interesting idea to touch base with nutritionalists and talk about Moringa, because they're actually sharing this with their patients. So anyway, there's a whole other story, but yeah, I thought that was a start.
I'll forward that to the class.
Yes, please. Yes.
And that's, he's got a lot of really good information. So yeah, I wanted to share these things and through over the courses, and we did this with people the in-person course as well, and people connected who were in different courses, but they had a common interest, and so I could connect them. And so that's going to happen too, as we move forward. We have a way that, monthly or however often people can meet, we can just join in and say, okay, this is the status and this is a connection and here's that happening over there, right?
Yeah.
So all of that is how we create that web, that network of all of the Moringa workers all over the world. And then with this federation, they have their home level. They're working on 5 different elements, and one of them is interesting. It's a price fixing that they want.
Okay.
One of the challenges I've had with a lot of what goes on in other countries is that they pay slave labor for the farmer who gets the least, and it goes,
and then they whack it up
far away, and somebody else is making, so many people are making profit on that farmer's work. And so this is a way, he said that they tracked, and so that the farmer got $2 and they ended up being sold for $100. And in between there might have been 5 people. So
what does it sell for in the States?
$45 a pound.
And what's a pound to a kilo?
2.2 pounds is a kilo. 2.2 kilos is a pound.
And you were saying how much? 100. 45.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what the thing is. What they were saying was $2 there at the farm and then $100 somewhere else, what amount or anything. It just was like, what they were saying is the disparity of what the farmer gets is so much lower. And so that has always been an interest of mine, is to have the farmer and the people who are producing that they actually get the benefit of it, because a lot of places they're dying of starvation, they're living on slave labor, and that product is going to
somewhere else. Yeah,
somewhere, right?
It seems like it needs to be some kind of fair trade kind of thing, like the fair trade labeling. It doesn't have to be that, but something similar, which is saying that the labor is being well paid, or paid according to the standards of that's fair, not necessarily what's the wages of the place they are in. It's got to be much fairer than that, if you know what I mean, because it's not just, in each country it's going to be, you produce in a place that's a developing country versus selling it in a developed country, then there's going to be so much disparity there. You want to bring that up even higher than what it would be in those developing countries, the wages, if you know what I mean.
Sure. Yeah.
More than fair. It should be a more than fair label.
Yes, exactly. More than fair.
More than fair.
Because it has to be, people can live well and abundant.
That's it. Yeah.
For the labor that they're doing, and providing something where people are just receiving, like we're just receiving, and that's the case with a lot of the food that comes into this country, is that. And because there is an incentive to keep those developing countries developing and never developed, because that way you no longer have that slave labor.
Slave labor, exactly.
So you really have to look at that. And so I always encourage people who are growing moringa that they keep it in their own country for their own people first, and you build up your own people first. You get the health and wealth of your own people up to par and a level of abundance. And then, so because if it all goes to that First Nation first, and there's nothing left, and that's always going to be.
And I wonder sometimes whether that the Hendrick down in Florida with the Numa nurseries, he's very big on that whole co-op thing. Maybe the co-op kind of situation for some of these countries would work, because then they're all invested into it and they're all part of it. And even if it's not in just one area, that could be spread out over multiple pieces of land where people come and actually work in there, and they have a vested interest and they actually get paid more fairly than just a wage, because it's actually, they're part of it. The co-op kind of might work. Anyway.
Yeah. So I'm
Yeah.
gonna see, just keep kind of track of what they're doing because they've taken on a lot of concepts there. And I
Mm.
want to have a Moringa certification board that people are following the Moringa protocol of the heart, like soil biology, composting, harvest, and the way that it's processed.
Mm.
So if we know that that's the protocol and people will have a different grade, some people won't be able to, sell their product for as high as another place because we're testing to
Mm-hmm.
see what is, really the level of product that it is. Like, so you never met BJ, but he is a doctor in Louisiana. He's going to be moving to Florida, and he wants to create a pharmaceutical grade.
I know, that is exciting.
And so that's a whole, yeah. So that, and then he just will market it to physicians, and then physicians will finally, so many doctors know about Moringa and they never pass the information on to their other
Yeah, but so many of them never even get trained in basic nutrition either. It's crazy.
I don't get that.
That's a whole other issue, huh? And speaking of that, the one challenge I've been having with Moringalicious actually is with these kind of recipe sites is you need to be doing them and you need to be taking photos of them. I don't actually have access to fresh Moringa to be able to kind of do a lot of this stuff. So I was wondering whether this is something I could talk to you about, whether you could be maybe creating some of these, taking some photos, just some nice photos or something, and we could work together to put some on, because I had that thought. I was looking around and sure, I can get some stock photography, but I actually don't have access to an abundance of the Moringa at the moment. So I can't actually make anything.
I see.
So,
Well, we can make the recipe and take a picture.
Yeah. A few pictures along the way, like, these are the ingredients, and like you would do a typical recipe. But yeah, I was just wondering if that's something, because you guys have got such an amazing looking Moringa too, and lots of it. I've got a small, tiny amount. It's not very viable at the moment because it's so bloody cold all of a sudden here.
Yeah.
So nothing's really growing. So
yeah, and we're coming into our season, so we're just getting the good. That would be great. That would be my son Mitchell, who has not had a role in all of this yet, and he's a chef. And
his sushi rolls and everything. Oh my goodness, that'd just be like fantastic.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So that was one idea that we had in my office here. I have a kitchen. And so he could produce them, because we thought about having a cooking show and videotaping him and showing how to make it. And that's one of the things that Malula had asked for. It's like, we need a food science. And so, yeah, I'll put that into the works. We have that now that the course is finished, and kind of everybody's like, it used to be, all hands on deck, getting all this done. But yeah, that would be the next thing, is having him come down. He lives about 2 hours away up in the mountains. So yeah, that would be great, because we've wanted to do that for a really long time. And
obviously the credit will be with you guys too, and the links back to your site. Like, I'm very transparent about it. It's kind of, I want to compile these recipes from wherever I can find them. Like, I even put Arundathi's name on, but I wasn't sure I should put her last name on, so I just put her first name on that recipe that she sent me.
Her last names
is very long. I know. I should just put Arundathi D. It's like the Welsh. Have you ever seen those Welsh railway station? It's the longest name of a town or in the world, and it's like this long. And if you go to the railway station, you're like looking at the sign like this.
Oh my God.
It is just so big. The Welsh have got very long names, and they're all very click, 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 click. They're all they're not vowels. They're kind of like consonants and stuff. Is that right? Yeah, it's vowels and consonants. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, look, that'd be great, and no pressure or anything, but like, yeah, because I just had that thought of, oh my God, how am I going to actually do this? Because I was thinking I'll just do it and I'll just start taking some photos myself, but then I was like, actually I won't have any probably for another 6 or 7 months really at this rate, by the time I grow it and we go into summer, because it's another 6 months at least.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, that's on our list of things to do and to develop that part of it, because I want people to see that they can put it into everyday use. And
Yes.
so we've been putting it into everyday use ourselves. Just like I make a pesto and I make a large batch and we just live on it for a month. It'll stay, you know. So yeah, I want to do that as well. So yeah,
Because there's obviously the next logical step is a Moringa cookbook.
you know, I've asked for
Yep, it's on the list. It's on the list.
on my everything Moringa list. There's films, there's documentaries, there's
A
oh
lot.
god,
Mm.
a
It's all
lot.
right, you get there.
And we're
Tick
getting
'em off.
there really faster than I ever imagined, actually. You know,
Good. It'll snowball now.
I think so. And yeah, so yeah, any other things that you can think of that would be beneficial for us? I mean, for us, it's like now, since I've never done marketing, that's a big piece of just like how to do the whole website, and should we turn that over, and let me know what that entails for you, and all of that.
Yeah.
But because what happens so often is that people find us right after we've finished a course and we're not doing it for a while, not till next year or something. And I just feel it's so important to get the word out that this is happening so that more and more people can, you know, join in and be trained, and people
Absolutely.
who and you know, across all types of professions need to know this information. So yeah, so that's a
Absolutely.
piece. So any other parts or pieces that you think of, just let me know. And, you know, I'd like to just stay in close connection and see what's next. And
Absolutely. So on the site, with the courses at the moment, have you kind of listed all the different ones that you're going to be having, like in the outline of everything that's gone on the site, so people know what the growers course is, or okay, and dates of when they might be on?
we only have the date of the next ambassador. We probably could come up with a one after that. What we're looking to do, and why we haven't just done a calendar, we're looking to see how many people I can reasonably do at a time, in
Yeah.
month time, with the one-on-ones. If everybody asked for a one-on-one every week, how many would that be? That would,
Yeah.
what amount of time? So
Yeah.
my kids are the ones who are saying, yeah, but if you did 15 people and all 15 had once every week, what,
And they're all from different parts of the world.
and they're different parts. The live sessions, how would we do that? Because in the beginning, I did 2 lives with 2 different time zones. Did you realize?
I'm wondering if one option is to break them down by rough time zones, so that at least you have the US ones. I know that's going to not have such diversity in the groups because they're going to be in blocks of time zones, but I think that might work much better, because then at least you'll be able to get sort of like you have the different intake groups from the different time zones. There will at least be a group where people can actually probably communicate with each other a bit easier, you know, because of the time zone. So even with amongst the group, it'll be easy to continue that conversation afterwards as well. But maybe that's one way to do it, where you're opening, you mentioned that it's for, you're doing an intake for people in the, you know, I don't know how you would, I don't know how you would market that, but you know what I mean? It's
two blocks. It was split up the planet in 2 blocks. Just 2 blocks would solve it.
Would work. Yeah.
There wouldn't be somebody in the middle of the night and too early in the morning and stuff like that. So yeah, that's what originally, when I was looking at, you know, and these different countries started to enroll, I'm like, how are we going to do this? And so that was an early conversation of doing courses by blocks of time zones. So yeah, that is something as we start to move through on that. And then how many, as my daughters get trained to do the one-on-ones, you know, then
that'll make it easier.
and then I'm also going to specify like maybe 6 different Moringa outreach actions, rather than just let everything be possible, because I think people got a little confused and lost in it.
Yeah.
And so if I made those 6 ones and then each of those were organized and so people could select one and just customize it to their country, their region,
Mm.
something like that, and that would be able to be managed more easily by people. That was another
Mm.
one of the changes, because I don't know that it would there be that many different kinds, and maybe somebody will say, "Oh, I would like it to do it on this," and so there's one outlier. But latest
Mm.
one, because some people used the 2 people used the outline that we gave and examples and questions, and they just answered the questions as though that was the worksheet, and I just full
Right. Yeah.
outreach, that's what they understood. So we have to always know that people have English as a second language when they're doing this, and so we will need to make even that much more clear and simple to do, because I
Mm.
think that the outreach was a really important part, and we didn't have that in the in the live one.
Mm.
But I felt that that is why I'm doing the one-on-ones, is to find the thing, a small thing that people can do, an action they can take, that then from that, they start to see what they can do, what they reasonably can do and accomplish on their own, 100% control. They're not waiting for somebody else. They're not waiting, and hoping that something is going to turn out before they can take a step. I
Mm.
want to see that step to happen, and then help make that step happen. And then as they do whatever the project is, that is what gives the confidence of being able to then take the next step. It also
Mhm.
is training an internal guide.
Mm.
Once you start to understand, when you find that thing that you want to do and you start to work on it, and then you see, like Nihal, do you remember he was going to do this commercial, big, huge thing? And
Yeah.
he's one-on-one, I brought him down to, I said, just have your first
Something
step,
manageable. Yeah.
research. So
Mm.
he researched right away he researched. And from that research, he realized, no, that's not, I'm going to do this. And then took a step and took a step. And now look, the result is 500,000 copies of this little, piece he made.
Mhm.
So from that confidence, now he can take that and do what next, right?
Yeah.
But what that did is it created in him a kind of knowing in himself about it, and his own true connection to it, with not his idea and some what he thinks he should, or no, it became very personal, and and
Mm.
it really should be. And so that's a part of the one-on-one, is to find that place that somebody can start to use that as a guide, and that brings the confidence. And that, even what Malula said, she became brave. That's what she said.
Yes.
Brave. I can just stand up when I have to stand up and talk in front of even children. I don't know, what am I going to say? And now, from that level of confidence, she said, I just feel brave. I can talk about it. I saw a moringa tree in the city, and I went in and I said, oh my God, there's moringa right here, and seed pods. And she's telling the person what they can do to improve their moringas, like,
Yeah.
because she knew that she had the information, right?
Yeah.
So that's
Absolutely.
the point. You start to have the confidence inside in this guide, and many people, it's a completely foreign idea, right?
Mm.
Never looked inward, right? For you, like, you live in there, so
Yeah.
not a leap, right? So where you can go from there is
Well,
in a
you've just made me something just popped into my head too. In terms of sort of like the courses, um, the ambassador course is a precursor. Have you thought of doing the growers as a separate one, which you don't require the ambassadors, but to incorporate some of the ambassadors? Obviously, you'd have the growing protocol in there, but you have a little bit of a snippet of the ambassadors in there. Because I'm wondering, in terms of marketing it, or having all three of them as a continuation of each other, like, so it's a whole package. I'm just trying to figure out different ways that you could be marketing it, because I think some people will come to moringa and they'll want to know how to grow it, and they've heard it's a superfood, but they might not want to take that next step because they don't know it. They don't understand what it means to be an ambassador. It's like what I was saying to you. It's like, you think that this is going to be like, well, what's this ambassador thing like? Am I going to be like a diplomat out there in the world? And then you realize that it's actually about the connection. but you don't get that when you first sort of like look at this as a course. You kind of had no idea what it actually really entails. And most people will be coming to Moringa thinking, oh, well, this is actually, you know, this is what I want to do. I want to grow Moringa. I heard it's really good. It's very healthy for you, yada, yada, yada. So I'm wondering if allowing people to do that as a separate standalone, but incorporating some of the bits from the ambassadors course in that introduction week, for example. So you're kind of getting people excited about it, because I'm just thinking how you market the concept of an ambassador for Moringa when people are probably only just interested in growing it. That's the first thing. But then it got me on to thinking, well, permaculture is all about that mission. It's all about that connection. It's the same kind of thing, isn't it? When you think about permaculture and you're thinking about how you can give back to the earth, how you can be part of the whole ecosystem. You're not just separate from it and just growing food and that's it. So I'm wondering if one way to jump over and do some marketing is to go to the permaculture groups, to touch base with them about, again, this is just ad-libbing here, but part of permaculture is, I know Moringa has been mentioned in permaculture circles, but I don't think a lot of people understand exactly how powerful Moringa actually really is. I don't know. I've never heard of Moringa being talked about in Australia as part of, maybe Jeff Lawton has talked about it a little bit, but it's never really been anything that's been on the radar for a lot of people. Like a lot of people still don't know about Moringa. Probably even people in permaculture still don't know about Moringa. So I guess I'm just thinking of ways that you can leapfrog a bit quicker to kind of get the message out there, is to kind of, number one, figure out maybe a different strand of how people can get into the courses and not just have to go through the ambassadors, but you still get to put a little bit over into it, from the ambassadors course into the growers course, and maybe tapping into people of like minds, like the permaculture associations and groups, and tell them that there's this particular course, and because you do talk about permaculture and how that fits into permaculture. So I don't know, it's just ad-libbing a few things.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, because, you know, we're new at this and how to create this. I came up with this, just why I started with the ambassadors, because that basis of information, I think is really important for people to really get that in a strong way. And from there, as a grower, to then take that, it would be taken. So in the grower, you're going to actually lay out your zones. You're going to understand, you're going to see the, you know, mark out the parameter of your parcel and know the grade and know, you know, prevailing wind and the run of the sun, and in a business plan. And you're going to see that this is something that you will have as an occupation. And so the groundwork of it, to me, seemed to be a really critical piece, because once they have that information, they're doing each of the subjects that we covered, they're demonstrating it. They're actually doing that. The educator is the same level. They just don't go back and grow anything, but they take that same level of information and they can teach it. Right? They're going to be teaching us. So that's the same level. The grower and the educator is the same level. It's just that the way they demonstrate it is different. And then a trainer is somebody who's done all of those, and they can independently put on a training. Online or in person, and they have that growing experience. So
yeah, no, I completely get that. I guess what I'm saying is in terms of trying to market it, it's probably a lot harder to market an ambassador's course in Moringa, because a lot of people might have heard about it or are interested in it, but they're not quite making that connection with the space in here. They're just thinking, I'm interested in this tree because I've heard it's really, it's pretty powerful. It's a miracle tree and I want to grow it. So they're not thinking of the connection just yet. They're just thinking, this sounds great, right? So that's what I was thinking, if there's a way that with the growers, and I see exactly why you're doing what you're doing, but I'm just saying from somebody looking in, they might not get that. So is there a way, or potentially is there a way that the growers course could be a standalone, but you incorporate elements of the ambassador at the very beginning? It's kind of like, it just becomes a little bit longer, but it's a grower's course. It's not an ambassador's course. It's just all about the terminology. So people kind of go, oh, right, you're going to learn how to grow moringa. But part of it is going to be that beginning phase, which is the ambassador's course to some degree. Makes sense. So you still incorporate it in, but in terms of marketing it, then people go, oh, wow, I'm going to learn how to grow moringa. And then you hit them with the old 2-punch of, you get them really excited about it. And then they're like, oh my God, this is just an amazing tree. I just want to tell everybody about it, because they start to get the connection, but they're coming in thinking they're learning how to grow it, but they're actually learning how to connect with it.
Yeah. No, I get that.
That's my thought anyway.
No, I'll bring that up in our meeting and see about the restructuring of it.
Or it could just be a standalone. Like you could still do it the way you're doing it, but you could just test that standalone where you're incorporating, you know what I mean? Just,
sure.
I'd just be curious to see if that is something people would go, oh, okay. Because a lot of people in the course were interested in growing it, but we all then became connected, because you have to do it to learn how to grow it, you see. So you have to do the ambassadors before you can do the growing. So we're kind of, it's not like we're forced, like we did it because we wanted to do it, otherwise we wouldn't have, none of us would have done it, but we're doing it, I guess, with the end goal of learning how to grow it properly, so that we can, so I guess that was probably just the thought that I had. And
well, I'll look at that, because that's really good perspective to just see, because we've done it only in person, and so there can be a way that a grower's course could be 6 weeks in the first, they're really putting in, all of that, or at least a lot of that information in the first part of it.
Exactly.
In more depth. So, I'll look at that, because I think that does make sense, because the growing of moringa is a big call out.
Yes. A lot of people would be attracted. They'd be attracted because they want to learn how to grow it. And you could even potentially do the same thing with the educators, so that the ambassador course isn't actually a standalone anymore. It just becomes a growing and an educating. And then you have the ambassadors part at the beginning, because really the biology and the permaculture would probably be included in both those courses anyway, to some degree, wouldn't they? I'm just I'm thinking of how streamlining it might make sense. And then instead of 3, you have 2, but the ambassadors is always going to be the first part of each of those.
No, I see that makes sense, because
or you have the growers first with the ambassadors, and then if people want to actually go on and become educators, and that becomes something they do after that, because it makes sense that they learn how to grow it first before they teach it.
No, exactly.
Again, I'm just trying to streamline it a bit for you guys, so that you're not running like a million different courses, like multiple times. And then it'll be easier for you too with the one-on-ones, I guess, because you're only really running a slightly longer course.
Yes.
Multiple times, but then because you've combined the 2 courses, you're not holding up you've got to do this part first before you can get to the growers.
I see that.
I don't know.
I'll do some journaling on that, because I'm getting what you're saying, and I can see that's a really good way to, not just for marketing, to make sense to people too. Because that's one of the things that Jensen said when he heard the part that you said, was ambassador, that sounds like this diplomatic thing. And he was like, maybe that's not the right word for it, or we already were grappling with some of that too. So this is really great feedback, because I can see being able to split the ambassador level into arrange it a different way, and split it off into 2 sections. So I'll
you have you think let it sit with you, and I do think then at that point it might make it a little bit easier, because I do think like the permaculture people would be really interested in this as well, because it has so many benefits to sort of like adding that into that whole permaculture mix. I think reaching out to those people as well, it would make a bit of, I'm just trying to think of who can you network with that is going to be like-minded, who would find this to be an amazing addition, if they don't already know about it, into their permaculture, design, etc. So anyway.
Yeah, I don't think, yeah, no, that's really great. I'm really grateful. Because I could see even the terminology of just calling it Moringa permaculture, because Moringa in itself has all these ways that you can use it, the way that it connects with, the soil
It
biology.
fits all the principles on so many levels,
Yeah,
doesn't it? Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
I'll look at that because I think that's a really powerful. It's already something established, and then we just can piggyback onto it, and it's not having to be its own created from nothing standalone thing.
Yeah, yeah.
It actually can really easily meander through. And there may be other organizations, other rather, sustainable agriculture,
Yes, exactly. Regenerative agriculture, whatever.
regenerative,
Yeah.
generating
Yeah. That's what I was just
soil.
thinking, all the networks that are already there. And just before we go, I was going to say one more thing about the educators course. How do you see that fitting in? Because I'm quite interested in it. But at the same time, I was thinking, well, how would that, just trying to figure out how that would fit in, say, for example, here locally and internationally. Are you looking for people, training people up to go out there and then be replicating what you're doing? Or is this something where you know what I mean? Like you just become an extension of Moringa for life? Or is this actually the educators who you learn how to do it and then you just go out and then you present that information wherever? Do you see what I mean? I was just trying to
Yeah,
figure out how that works. Yeah.
it can be both ways. So people can connect in and do the educators with us and through us, or they can become independent and they could do it on their own. So people would
Okay.
have the option of
Okay, cool. Yeah,
either
because I was always curious. I saw that because that's definitely something I'm interested in as well. But it was just like, how's it? I just wasn't sure how it was going to fit or how it was fitting for you guys or what you were talking about. So,
yeah, yeah. Yeah, we want
cool.
that to be, people to have as many choices about that as possible. And some people want to just create their own thing right where they are, and they have already a following, and they can be independent.
Excellent. Okay, cool. All
Yeah.
right. That was it. Yeah. I thought I'd just clarify it because I knew that
No, that's
was,
great.
since
Yeah.
we're on the courses.
Yeah, and all of that, I need to like flesh each of those sections out more and clearer. And even on our website, I saw that there's some I think it's in the grower description, there's something that duplicates at the very end of it. So I have to have Mackenzie go in and fix that. There's what's happened is I've written a version, and then I edit that version, and then I edit that version, and then what Mackenzie took was not
The
my
original.
version, but she didn't know,
It's all about version control, isn't it?
I mean, it's challenging. So I've had her now go through and delete anything that's previous to this one, so that we only have this one. I don't, and some of it was training me to know where I'm putting. I'll just create a document, because
Yeah.
I don't know where I'm supposed to put all of this within the Google Drive. And this, we have the drive, we have the course, we have Moringa for Life, we have all the videos, and we have, it's like, I'm
So where are
lost
they?
in there like a maze. So I just start creating a document. The kid's like, you have to be in this place in order to, so I have something that's in my Mariko's Moringa. I have Mariko with no S, and then I have so
Too
a lot
much.
of it is my own training track of how to make documents and then make them, update on themselves, and no other version be anywhere else. So
Well, you can do it within the same doc on Google Docs. So if you just go into the same place, you can do all your changes and switch on. You've done that already? You know that now?
I know that now,
Yeah.
but I didn't know that in the beginning.
You live and you learn.
Yeah. So she said, just go into the drive and just, if you're looking
Do
for
your
the
edits
document,
there. Yeah.
write it in the search and it'll bring it to, yeah. So a lot of it is my training. I've found out how to maneuver within all of that. So yeah. She has a harder time managing me than anything else in her life. Oh no, she's going to be in the drive today.
And you're learning a whole new set of skills as well, because at the same time, you're just being used to doing this in-person training as well, which is very non-technical to that extent. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, I'm online. I've got to know all these things and version control in Google Docs and blah, blah, blah. Well, it's good. You've got people around you who understand this. Digital natives, they're already sort of like, your kids are already digital natives, so it's a good thing.
It is. I have to surrender. I have this mantra, technology is my friend.
That's right, it is.
Because
It is.
otherwise, I'm just like, "Ah." Yeah, so no, it's been a lot of fun. I've actually been able to laugh at myself a lot learning all of this. And what's funny is like now they use Excel spreadsheets for all different kinds of things. And I did that, I think, 40 years ago. And it's amazing how little that has changed.
Yeah, no, it hasn't. Google Sheets. They've just made it Google Sheets and put it online, and Excel actually. Even Excel's online now. You don't even have to download it. It's like everything's, yeah, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But anyway, look, I am noticing the time, and I'll probably have to scoot. But
Yeah, okay.
I'll send you some emails with the details that we just had a chat about. And yeah, let's just keep continuing conversations. I don't know where you can send me an email to my email address too. I'm just not sure now how much we're going to be tapping back into Canva.
No, I'm going to start using Mariko's Moringa. And everything already goes there. Even all the messages from Canvas goes to there.
Okay.
So when I email now, I'm going to just email from now on from Mariko's Moringa.
From email to email, yeah, not through Canva. Okay, that's all right. So that's what I'll do then. I think you've already sent me an email to that email address already. Let me just see. So it was a Mariko's Moringa@gmail.com. I've got it here. That's good. Excellent. All right. So I know where to send it. Fantastic.
Nikoletta, thank you so much. This is just
my pleasure.
Amazing and wonderful to have you be a part of what we're doing and to be able to ask you these technical questions. The feedback is great since you've done a lot of online classes. You know, I don't know what it's like. I've done one, which is Dr. Elaine's, and it was quite a challenge, but it was already years ago and everything has changed since then.
Yeah.
So yeah.
No, I'm more than happy to kind of share my knowledge on that level for sure. Yeah. I'm always scouting around. I'm a geek like that. I can't help myself. So I'm the opposite to you.
Oh my gosh, it's great.
But it's been lovely. But if you need anything else, just let me know. And yeah, we'll just move through life
together.